Hare Krishna, Jai. Welcome to the eighth class of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1 study. We're on the seventh chapter. We just had Narada Muni's full story of his previous life and his inspiration for his disciple Vyasadeva. And we're going to pick up with what that meant for Vyasadeva. And then we're going to join the Pandavas. We're going to join the Pandavas post-battle of Kurukshetra, post-Bhagavad Gita. So exciting stuff. But even more exciting is that we're going to do some kirtan.
Okay, Purple Sweet Souls. So happy to land here together. Let's take a clearing breath first. Inhale, sip the breath in through your nose. Fill, fill, fill. Exhale, clear it out. Let it go, let it go. Starting with our opening prayers, this invocation honoring all of our teachers, the acharyas who have walked this path before us, bestowing the light of knowledge upon us, removing the darkness of ignorance. And let's sing tonight. Let's join our hearts through our voices with gratitude, realizing just how fortunate we are. No matter what we're sitting with and navigating in our life, may we remember just how fortunate we are, right? And that we've all landed here together. Take a deep breath in. Vrindavan ki, Shri Sridhar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Prabhupada Bhakti Sangha and beyond ki, Hari Hari Bol.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shilakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. All right, we're going to enter chapter 7, but we had some beautiful reflections on chapter 6, particularly on a few things. One was Narada Muni's, well, let's start with what you all heard from the reflections. I can reflect back your reflections afterwards if there's time. What did you hear from chapter 5 and 6? Narada's instructing Vyasadeva, is inspiring his disciple, his vulnerably sharing from his own life to encourage Vyasadeva to be direct in sharing Krishna consciousness. And that there was that nice dynamic of how Krishna, took something away from Narada to take his attachments away, and then also just attract him into his practice, and then give him his own darshan, show him his form, and then increase that desire for him. There's a lot of reflections around that. So let's churn that a little bit before we jump in.
Can I go?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I loved all the oh my gosh, Amy's and just Nancy's. I don't know. Everybody's reflections were so beautiful. It's just so amazing. Like when you sit back and think about it, that a 5-year-old went through that.
It's remarkable.
It's just like, I'm so amazed by it. And I think that I got so focused on like what really hit me, but then I forgot like the whole picture. So it was so great to hear the reflections, because I was like, oh yeah, right. Wow, that he was talking about his life, and this happened at 5 years old. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Bhagavatam will do that. It will pull away from a conversation and zoom in to another incident in the past, maybe, or other persons. Like the two people who are conversing will discuss something that happened previously, and then you get so into that, and then you realize when you pull back, oh wow, and then it's so relevant to the original conversation. It's so relevant to us.
Right.
Like we all have our situation, but nobody in this Zoom room or physical room is a 5-year-old who just lost their only caregiver. That's
Right.
like, completely helpless. But Krishna, there was a very special arrangement for Narada. Clearly, there was a very special accommodation made for him, that he had this customized program where it's like step by step he's being led, and it just shows you the expertise of Krishna, and the way that a soul can be, a sincere soul can be led through any situation, even one as drastic as that. So,
Right.
yeah.
Another is that it wasn't so like, it was so relatable. It wasn't like so abstract philosophical that like I had to like go way out there, to understand it. It was just so, it was a beautiful chapter, really. It's really,
Yeah.
really nice chapter.
Yeah. Bhagavatam focuses on the personal experiences, and the stories of devotees having personal experiences, and it's very touching, and it's instructive in a way that, for us especially, because we don't have like the training to engage in abstract thinking for long stretches of time, it's much more useful for us.
Yeah.
Make that point.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. More any other reflections, Tanya?
Yeah. So I make it a habit not to read anybody else's reflections until I've done my own. And then I go back and read them. And I thought it was really interesting. So many people were really resonated with, the text 22.
Yeah, I
And
noticed
I
so.
I had too, and I thought it was really interesting because of just how beautifully the scriptures talk about that hankering. You know, like those of us that have gone to Vrindavan had that little taste. We can't wait to go back. Like it's just such a beautiful part of the plan. And the piece about in the purport that really got me was that the quote that says spiritual service has neither satiation or end, right? Like in the material world, you can master a topic, right? I mean, ideally, you can master a topic. But like with the spiritual practice and the spiritual learnings that we're doing, there will never be a day that any one of us can say, "Yep, did it, moving on." Like you can't master it. Like you always want more and to learn more and to do more. And it's just it's fascinating and beautiful all at the same time. And it's also humbling because there's just so much more to learn. No matter how many years we've been doing this, there's so much more. And I
Yep.
think that's just as a lifelong learner, that really excites me because it's not just the learning that I'm going to do in this lifetime. I'm going to keep learning in all the lifetimes that I need to be here. So I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, the context of verse 22 was the one where Krishna, in in the form of his voice, speaking to Narada, says, "O virtuous one, you have only once seen my person, and this is just to increase your desire for me, because the more you hanker for me, the more you'll be freed from all material desires." And in that purport, Prabhupada's talking about the like lifetime progress that someone makes, and there he makes the point that you're never done, and you'll never be complete. And yeah, I'm hearing your enthusiasm for a prospect which doesn't have doesn't have like a fatigue point, or you're never tired of it. You're never like, yeah, let's try something else for a change here. It doesn't stop giving. Yeah, Jai. Okay. Any other reflections from Narada's
I have one.
instructions? Mary, go ahead, Mary.
I, I have one. Text 26 kind of puts it all together for me. Chapter 6. I began chanting the holy name in the fame of the Lord by repeating recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world.
Yeah,
Japa, you're doing it alone, but yet when you chant and you have kirtan, it's just like icing on the cake. And it's nice to see that go back, when all else, stay with your chanting
totally.
and it just helps you.
Just like it helped Narada. It helped him when he lost his mother. Then he saw the Lord. Then the Lord withdrew, but it helped him after that too. And the rest of that verse, he says, ignoring all the formalities of the world, I began chanting the holy name and fame of the Lord repeatedly. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied, humble, and unenvious. Yeah, it's a it's a glimpse into the inner experience of somebody who's um, floating above all the drama, the material
I
drama.
like that.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
it too. I like it a lot.
When in doubt, chant. That's my motto.
Ignoring all the formalities of the material world, like all the like drama and petty nonsense, is like, yeah, but he's way up above that. He's like humble, non-envious, totally thriving. It's it's totally possible from that chanting. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you. On that note, we're going to jump into chapter 7 now. So, chapter 7 is called The Son of Drona Punished. Who that is and what that means will become evident. But before we get into that, because that's around the Pandavas and their pastimes, we're going to hear about Vyasadeva and how he was affected by the 6th chapter, because we were all affected by it. And here's Vyasadeva hearing about this from his guru. So Shaunaka Rishi, who was asking Sutta Goswami in the original assembly at Naimisharanya, he had asked him to share what Sutta had heard from Shukadev. Now he's asking Sutta, okay, so what did Vyasadeva do after Narada left? And in the second verse, I got to read this verse because it's got my name in it. So this is what I was named after. This is the name of Vyasadev's ashram. Sutu Uvacha Brahmanadyang Sarasvatyam Ashramav Paschimitrate Shamya Pras iti Prokta Rishinang Satravartanaha. So this place still exists. It's in the Himalayas. It's the name of the cottage where Vyasadeva lives. And there's a nice purport here, which I'll just read a little bit of it. For spiritual advancement of knowledge, a suitable place and atmosphere are definitely required. The place on the western bank of the Saraswati is especially suitable for this purpose. And there is the ashrama of Vyasadeva at Shamya Pras. That's the name of the place. An ashrama is a place where spiritual culture is always foremost. It does not matter whether the place belongs to a householder or a mendicant. Mendicant means like a renunciant, like a monk, or, like that. The whole varnashrama system is so designed that in each and every status of life is called an ashrama. That means that spiritual culture is the common factor for all. The brahmacharis, grihastas, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis all belong to the same mission of life, namely realization of the supreme. Therefore, none of them are less important as far as spiritual culture is concerned. The difference is matter of formality on the strength of renunciation. The sannyasis are held in high estimation on the strength of practical renunciation. So there's some nice meditation there on the nature of an ashrama, because this is Vyasadev's ashrama, his little refuge, his home. He's married. He's a grihasta. He's not a monk. But his home is an ashrama. And, we're trying the Bhakti House to be an ashrama and like that. All of you are living in ashramas. So at that place, Vyasadeva, in his ashram, touched water for purification, sat down to meditate. And there's a couple of really beautiful verses here, verses 4 through 6. These are classics, so I'll focus in on these a little bit. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite male apashat purusham purnam mayang chatarapashrayam. Thus he fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in devotional service, bhakti yoga. This is right there in the Sanskrit, bhakti yogena manasi. His mind was fixed with bhakti yoga, without any tinge of materialism, and thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy. So what's happening here is Vyasadeva has fully accepted the instructions of his spiritual master, and Vyasadeva is already a very highly realized bhakti yogi. He's sitting down and he's actually engaging in samadhi, full communion, full reflection on the Lord. And in that samadhi, he's actually seeing the Lord along with his external energy, mayang chatarapashrayam, which means the Lord's material energy. He's seeing them and he's seeing the relationship between them. And the purport probably says the word apashrayam suggests that this energy of the Lord, the material energy, is under full control. The internal or superior energy is also called maya, but it is spiritual maya, or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of this internal potency, the darkness of material ignorance is at once dissipated. Right? The next verse. So Vyasadeva is seeing the Lord, and he's seeing the energy of illusion. And he sees about the energy of illusion, yaya sammohito jiva. Due to this external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of themselves as a material product, and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. So this is a beautiful example of when one becomes Krishna conscious, one also understands the material reality, right? It's not possible to independently understand material reality, right? The 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita confirms that, where material reality is likened to a giant banyan tree. Those banyan trees have like thousands of roots, and then the roots go up and become branches. The branches go back down to the earth, and they become roots again. And it's like, where does it start? Where does it end? They're so big, they're like little ecosystems. They have like billions of little ants and stuff living in them too. It's just like the world is compared to a banyan tree, and Krishna says there, nobody can understand where it ends. Nobody can understand where it begins, and nobody can see where its foundation is. And so what we see here is Vyasadeva does understand all that. He does see how the living entity, although in their essential nature is totally free from the effects of Maya, how they become captured by it. How does he see that? Because he's Krishna conscious. Because he sees the Lord. right? He sees the Lord, therefore he sees the Lord's energy, who is his energy, is Krishna's energy. Because he's Krishna conscious, now he has been given gifted vision of what it means to be illusioned, captured by illusion. Remember that in conversation with Narada, Narada was talking from a point of view of Vyasadeva, my dear disciple. You need to do good for people because they are. I mean, somebody quoted this in the comments, in the reflections, that Narada was saying this is the only way that people can truly be freed from their suffering. The suffering that comes from their misidentification of themselves. They have to hear about Krishna. So that Vyasadeva has this mission now. It's been given to him by his guru. What is his mission? To help living entities to come out of illusion by directly sharing their relationship with Krishna. So they can come to the same realization he's coming to. They can see the Lord and they can see themselves side by side and the external energy. So to prosecute, to push forward that mission that has been given by his guru, he has this darshan, he has this vision, right? This is a beautiful lesson. If you want to actually see the Lord, get yourself a mission, get yourself a spiritual goal, right? That's given to you. And our acharyas are like unanimous, all the way from Narada down to Srila Prabhupada and on. Try to do good for yourself, first of all, and then do good for other people. And if you take up that mission, you get empowered to see Krishna to a degree you could never see just if you tried to do it independently. Vyasa is not independent here. Vyas is a disciple. He's a disciple, so he's gifted all the blessings of his spiritual master. So right now he's seeing side by side the Lord and the external energy. And he's seeing how the living entity, although in their nature they're essentially independent from Maya, they become fully bought into the idea, oh, I am matter, I am this body, I am this mind, and all that that means. Prabhupada gives a beautiful purport about the nature of this illusion, right? I'll read something from this purport just for the sake of having Prabhupada speak on this. The Supreme Lord descends from his kingdom upon the kingdom of the illusory energy, that's this material world, and personally gives relief in the form of Bhagavad Gita, wherein he personally suggests that although the ways of the illusory energy are very stiff to overcome, one who surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Lord is set free by the order of the Supreme. This surrendering process is the remedial measure for getting relief from the bewildering ways of the illusory energy. The surrendering process is completed by the influence of association. The Lord has suggested, therefore, that by the influence of the speeches of saintly persons who have actually realized the Supreme, conditioned souls are engaged in his transcendental loving service. They get a taste. They get a taste for hearing about the Lord, and by such hearing only are they gradually elevated to the platform of respect, devotion, and attachment for the Lord. By the way, some of you may be remembering, this is exactly what the second chapter of the Bhagavatam talked about. The step-by-step process. First you associate, then you get a taste, then you become free of attachment, you transcend the modes of nature, then you're attracted to Krishna, etc., etc. Pure devotion, prema comes. So that's being given here, where from the point of view of Vyasadeva seeing this, the non-surrendered souls, the conditioned souls. Next verse, also a classic. Anarto pashamang sakshad bhakti yoga matokshaje. Lokasya janato vidvang chakresat samhitam. Again, here's the direct words, Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga matokshaje. Classic verse. This is like Vyasadeva's mission statement here. The material miseries of the living entity, which are superfluous to them, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this. And therefore, the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature, which is in relation to the supreme truth. What Vedic literature? The Bhagavatam itself. He committed himself to manifesting Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is actually not his invention. It's not coming from his mind. It's a transcendental literature. It already exists, but it was something he could realize. He could have a vision of it and speak it, where it was transcribed down and written so it could be shared. And so that's what it means when we hear about him compiling this. So a very beautiful statement here that the miseries of living entity are superfluous to them and they can be directly mitigated by the process of devotional service, but people don't know this. Therefore, Vyasadeva compiled Bhagavatam. So this is like a missing piece, like to help people be convinced that Bhakti Yoga can solve their problems. That's kind of like the purpose of Bhagavatam being manifested through him. Verse 7, simply by giving oral reception to this Vedic literature, the feeling for loving devotional service to Lord Krishna sprouts up at once to extinguish the fire of lamentation, illusion, and fearfulness. The great sage Vyasadeva, after compiling the Srimad Bhagavatam and revising it, taught it to his own son, Shukadeva Goswami, who was already engaged in self-realization. And then we get a very beautiful question. Shaunaka, after hearing about how Shukadeva Goswami got taught the Bhagavatam, he thought to himself, well, hold on. He says here, verse 9, Shukadeva Goswami was already on the path of self-realization, right? And thus he was Atmarama, pleased with his own self. He's fully satisfied with the self. He was already Brahman realized. He realized the impersonal feature of the Supreme. So the question is there. He says, so why did he take the trouble to undergo such a study of such a vast literature? And then verse 10, another famous verse. This verse is quoted in the Chaitanya Charitamrita like 6 times. This is a verse that Lord Chaitanya gave several purports on, like dozens of purports. He broke down every word of this verse and gave multiple commentaries on it to his students. It's such an important verse. Atma ramash muniyo nirgranta apirukrame kurvantya haitakim bhaktim ittam bhuta guna harihi. All different varieties of Atma Ramas. What's an Atma Rama? Those who are fully taking pleasure in the self, the spirit self. Those who are satisfied with spiritual reality. All different varieties of self-satisfied spiritualists, especially those established on the path of self-realization, although freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service unto the personality of Godhead. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. The idea here is that even if one is already liberated from matter, the Bhagavatam is actually attractive even to such a person. A person who's liberated from matter will have no desire to sit down and watch Netflix. They have nothing to gain from that. Nothing to lose either. It's just completely another transformation of the material energy. But the Bhagavatam is actually attractive even to transcendentalists. Why? Because it shows Krishna's direct qualities. Itam bhuta guna. Guna means quality here. Guno harihi. It manifests the qualities of the Lord. And Prabhupada in the purport kind of like summarizes Lord Chaitanya's purports on this verse, breaking down what all these words mean, showing us how it is that a self-realized soul, even if they realize they're not their body, they realize they're spirit soul, just by hearing Bhagavatam, can experience a higher attraction, which is exactly what happened to Shukadeva Goswami. He was attracted, although completely liberated. Remember, we heard about him like walking through the forest naked. He was like totally beyond body, society, other people, male, female, time, place, and he was indifferent. But him still, despite that, he was not indifferent to the Bhagavatam. When he heard the Bhagavatam, he became affected. Verse 12, Suta Goswami said, now I shall begin the transcendental narration of the Lord Sri Krishna and topics of the birth, activities, and deliverance of King Parikshit, the sage amongst kings, as well as topics of the renunciation of the worldly order by the sons of Pandu. So we've heard now about the manifestation of the Bhagavatam and how Vyasadeva was convinced to sit down and become a vessel for it, to receive it, and then share it to his son, Shukadeva Goswami. Suta heard it from Shukadeva, and now Suta is saying, now I will share with you these pastimes. And so now we have a change of venue. Now we're going to Kurukshetra, right? Mm-hmm. At the battlefield of Kurukshetra, after the battle was over, the Pandavas won. The Pandavas won, but many, many people died on both sides. And it's, well, we'll get more and more about this, especially in the 9th chapter, a couple chapters from now. But for now, there is a little bit of last final drama. The battle's over, like the actual honest face-to-face battle. However, verse 13, 14. When the respective warriors of both camps, the Kauravas and Pandavas, were killed on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and the dead warriors obtained their deserved destinations. And when the son of Dhritarashtra fell down lamenting, his spine broken, beaten by the club of Bhimasena. This is Duryodhana. Duryodhana dueled one-on-one with Bhima and lost. He was killed. His spine was broken, so he's lying on the ground, mortally wounded. When that happened, the son of Dronacharya was the guru, the military guru, the weapons guru of the Kauravas, the bad guys. His son, Ashvatthama, beheaded the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi. So Draupadi is the wife of the Pandavas, right? Arjuna, a very unusual situation. She's married to 4 different men. But she's an incredibly qualified woman, and it's a very unusual situation because anyway, the backstory is there in the Mahabharata, but they had sons. She had 5 sons, and they were sleeping. They were children. And Ashvatthama was on the opposing side. He snuck into their tent and murdered them in their sleep, right? And delivered the heads as a prize to his master, foolishly thinking that he would be pleased. Duryodhana, however, disapproved of the heinous act, and he was not pleased in the least. Duryodhana was not a good man. As the son of Dhritarashtra, he was trying to usurp the throne, but even he was disgusted by this act of Ashvatthama because it wasn't honest. It was killing people in their sleep, killing children. It was just really heinous. So Ashvatthama had crossed a line. He really lost his way, and he committed this activity, this action that even his own side was like horrified by. So this act, which happens after the battle of Kurukshetra, precipitates the following events. Okay, verse 15. Draupadi, the mother of the 5 children of the Pandavas, after hearing the massacre of her sons, began to cry in distress, with eyes full of tears. Trying to pacify her in her great loss, Arjuna spoke to her thus: "O gentle lady, when I present you with the head of that Brahmana," that's Ashvatthama, "after beheading him with arrows from my Gandiva bow, I shall then wipe the tears from your eyes. Then, after burning your sons' bodies, cremating them, you can take your bath standing on his head." Here we have the hot-blooded words of a kshatriya. He's like, "I'm gonna get him back, and you can have your ceremonial bath standing on his decapitated head. I'm going to kill him." Because Arjuna was one of her co-husbands, and also, extremely dharmic gentleman. So this is extremely offensive to him, what just happened. Arjuna, guided by the infallible Lord, his friend and driver, thus satisfied the dear lady by such statements. Then he dressed in armor and armed himself with furious weapons, and getting into his chariot, he set out to follow Ashvatthama, the son of his martial teacher. Ashvatthama, the murderer of the princess, seeing from a great distance Arjuna coming at him with great speed, fled in his chariot, panic-stricken, just to save his life. When Ashvatthama saw that his horses were tired, he considered that there was no alternative for protection outside of his using the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra. Prabhupada translated here as the quote-unquote nuclear weapon. What does that mean? It's not actually fission or fusion bomb, but Prabhupada talks about it in this purport. Is it? Maybe another purport. I'll find his talking about it, but verse 20. No, it's around here. Since his life was in danger, he touched water in sanctity and concentrated upon the chanting of the hymns for throwing nuclear weapons, although he did not know how to withdraw such weapons. Is it verse 21? Prabhupada talks about this? No? Well, I can just summarize. So, the nature of battle is that it can happen in different ways. You can have gross weapons. Gross means it's like manifest through the gross elements, earth, water, fire, air. You can have like, an arrow or an arrow that's on fire, or like even like an elemental water weapon if you have that kind of power, what have you, right? However, in the previous age, which this is in the previous kalpa, previous age, qualified warriors could actually activate weapons by mantra. They could actually activate weapons by mantra, and that's what this is. Um, so this is a mantra weapon. It's more subtle. It's not. It's still material. It's not spiritual, but it's a subtle weapon. It's made of subtle energy, just like let's say you had the power to like, for example, we have all these superheroes. You have like the X-Men and Marvel heroes and Star Wars Jedi using the Force. So this is all the same basic idea. It's subtle matter. They have some yogic power, right? Some Luke Skywalker can like manipulate matter or time, and so he had this. Ashwatthama had this. He was so qualified that he had a mantra weapon. It's like a magical spell, and that's what he casts. But it's said here. He did not know how to withdraw the weapon. He just sent it out there because he was desperate, because he was being pursued by Arjuna and he thought, I'm going to get killed by him. Thereafter, a glaring light spread in all directions. It was so fierce that Arjuna thought his own life in danger. And so he began to address Lord Shri Krishna. Arjuna said, Oh my Lord, and there's a couple of nice prayers here. You are the Almighty Personality of Godhead. There is no limit to your energies. Therefore, only you are competent to instill fearlessness in the hearts of your devotees. Everyone in the flames of material miseries can find the path of liberation, and you only. Thus, you descend in this incarnation to remove the burden of the world and to benefit your friends, especially those who are your exclusive devotees and are constantly wrapped in meditation upon you. O Lord of Lords, how is it that this dangerous effulgence is spreading all around? Where does it come from? I do not understand it. All he knows is that he's pursuing Ashwatthama, and all of a sudden the world is just like on fire. Verse 27, Krishna says, Know for me that this is the act of the son of Drona, Ashwatthama. He has thrown the hymns of nuclear energy, the Brahmastra. This is the purport Prabhupada talks about what Brahmastra is. And he does not know how to retract the glare. He has helplessly done this, being afraid of imminent death. It's like he's going to kill himself and everyone else with him. The Brahmastra is similar to the modern nuclear weapon manipulated by atomic energy. The atomic energy works wholly on total combustibility, and so the Brahmastra also acts. It creates an intolerable heat similar to the atomic radiation, but the difference is the atomic bomb is a gross type of nuclear weapon, whereas the Brahmastra is a subtle type of weapon produced by chanting hymns. It is a different science. And in the days gone by, such science was cultivated in the land of Bharatavarsha. The subtle science of chanting hymns is also material, but it has yet to be known by the modern material scientists. Such material science is not spiritual, but it has a direct relationship with the spiritual method, which is still subtler, because it's using sound. Right? Like we're using sound to get a spiritual result. This is using sound to get a material result. A chanter of hymns knew how to apply the weapon as well as how to retract it. That was perfect knowledge. But Ashwatthama, who made use of the subtle science, did not know how to retract it. He applied it being afraid of his imminent death, and thus the practice was not only improper, but also irreligious. As the son of a Brahmin, he should not have made so many mistakes, and for such gross negligence of duty, he was to be punished by the Lord himself. Right? Just after killing a bunch of children in their sleep. So he's really not having a good day. He's making mistake after mistake here. Son of a Brahmin, actually. He should know better. So Sutta Goswami says, hearing this, Arjuna touched water for purification, and after walking around circumambulating Lord Shri Krishna, he cast his Brahmastra weapon to counteract the other one. Cast a counterspell. When the rays of the two Brahmastras combined, a great circle of fire like the disk of the sun covered all outer space and the whole firmament of planets. This is like every action movie you've ever seen, It's like pan out to like the cosmic scale, and it's like big lens flares, like the two people face off. Here's Arjuna, just like his magical spell is counteracting the other magical spell. This actually happened. This is not fiction, right? All the population of the three worlds was scorched by the combined heat of the weapons. Everyone was reminded of the solemn vortex of fire which takes place at the time of annihilation. Thus, seeing the disturbance of the general population and the imminent destruction of the planets, Arjuna at once retracted both Brahmastra weapons, as Lord Sri Krishna desired. Arjuna, his eyes blazing in anger, like two red balls of copper, dexterously arrested the son of Gautami, the Ashwatthama, and bound him with ropes like an animal. After binding him, Arjuna wanted to take him to the military camp. Krishna, looking on with his lotus eyes, spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. So, okay, Ashwatthama did what he did, and he tried to save himself with this weapon, this mantra weapon. Arjuna counteracts it, and Arjuna is going to drag him back, take him to justice. Now, the next point of drama is there's going to be a difference of opinion on what to do with him. What to do with Ashwatthama. Why? Because he's a Brahmana. He's actually a member of the wise caste, the renounced simple Brahmana, but he's not behaving like a Brahmana. He's a murderer, right? But at the same time, you know, we should show him mercy. No, we shouldn't. We should kill him. So this is going to come up. So here we go. Krishna spoke to Arjuna in an angry mood. Lord Shri Krishna said, "O Arjuna, you should not show mercy by releasing this relative of a Brahmana, Brahma Bandhu." Brahma Bandhu means one who is related to a Brahmana. It's an insult. He's saying he's supposed to be a Brahmana, but he's just the son of a Brahmana. He doesn't have the qualifications. Don't show him any mercy, for he has killed innocent boys in their sleep. He has killed innocent boys in their sleep, right?
Coming from Krishna.
Coming from Krishna. So in the purport, Prabhupada talks about what the qualifications of a Brahmana are, but how Ashwatthama didn't have those qualifications. He says, as by birth only one does not become a high court judge, so also one does not become a Brahmana simply by birthright, but by acquiring the necessary qualifications of a Brahmana. Important, right? This is important for us in the general sense because sometimes people will, either in the context of a Brahmin or anything else, they will claim some qualification. Mm-hmm. And Krishna is being very practical. It's like, this person does not afford it, should not be afforded the respect a Brahmana is afforded. He did not behave like a Brahmana. Quite the opposite. He behaved like an animal. Kill him, says Krishna. However, well, he goes on. He says, a person who knows the principles of religion does not kill an enemy who is careless, intoxicated, insane, asleep, afraid, or devoid of their chariot. Nor does he kill a boy, a woman, a foolish creature, or a surrendered soul. So he's saying what he did was completely adharmic, was completely inappropriate. Because it wasn't on a battlefield with a willing combatant who's like, even he says, you shouldn't kill somebody who's intoxicated or asleep or careless. Like if they're not paying attention, you can't fight them. It's not okay. What he did completely stepped outside of the battle we had had. It was just a murder. He's a murderer, right? A cruel and wretched person who maintains his existence at the cost of others' lives deserves to be killed for his own well-being. Otherwise, he will go down by his own actions. Krishna is saying here, he's polluted himself so badly with what he did, it's actually for his benefit for you to kill him. Because if you do, he won't have to pay with interest. He can pay right now some of the karmic cost for what he did. If he avoids this somehow, he's just going to have to pay for it later, and he's going to have to pay with interest. So don't think you're doing him a favor by not killing him, right? So there's a discussion here of karma on this purport, verse 37, right? But there's going to be a difference of opinion. Mm-hmm. Furthermore, Krishna says, I personally heard you promise Draupadi, your own wife, that you would bring forth the head of the killer of her sons. This man is an assassin, a murderer of your own family members. He's dissatisfied his own master. He's but the burnt remnants of his family. Kill him immediately. Verse 40. Although Krishna, who was examining Arjuna in religion, he's testing him. He's testing his dharma. Although he's testing Arjuna, although he encouraged Arjuna to kill Ashwatthama, Arjuna, a great soul, did not like the idea of killing him, although Ashwatthama was a heinous murderer of Arjuna's family members. Just think of what it takes to be able to come to that realization. Arjuna's like, I don't feel like I want to do that. This doesn't feel right. Like, His own sons were killed by this despicable person. But he's so in touch with Dharma that he's like, even you're saying that, Krishna, I feel like there's something else here. And Krishna's testing him just to get this to come out. So now we have Draupadi, the mother of 5 murdered sons, children. What does she say? Verse 42, Draupadi then saw Ashvatthama, who was bound with ropes like an animal, and silent for having enacted the most inglorious murder. He's feeling some repentance. He's sitting here completely shamed. Due to her female nature and due to her being naturally good and well-behaved, she showed him due respects as a Brahmana. So she's showing him the respect due to a Brahmana, although he's not actually a Brahmana, right? And she's showing a certain kind of quality that the verse actually says is feminine. She's showing a certain kind of kripa is the word, kripa, out of compassion, a certain kind of compassion that although she's a mother who just lost her children, she's seeing him with compassion. Again, what an incredible person to be capable of that, right? So Krishna has created this situation so that the imperative of killing him is coming into conflict with the compassionate nature of Arjuna and Draupadi. And so this nature here is described in these purports. Verse 42 talks about the very soft-hearted quality of Draupadi, the feminine quality. And then she says, she could not tolerate Ashvatthama's being bound by ropes, and being a devoted lady, she said, release him, for he is a Brahmana, our spiritual master. Right? She's showing gratitude because it was his father, Ashvatthama's father, who was their own guru in the martial arts, in the arts of military science. And she's saying that he's like a representative of his father. Right? So he should be treated with the same respect. Verse 46, oh, most fortunate one who know the principles of religion, it is not good for you to cause grief to glorious family members who are always respectable and worshipful. He should be considered like family. He did what he did, but he should be considered like family. Because his father is like family, he should be considered like family for us. Verse 47, another kind of logic. My lord, do not make the wife of Dronacharya cry like me. Don't make his mother go through what I'm going through. Wow, powerful, right? I am aggrieved for the death of my sons. She need not cry constantly like me. So she's saying he should be considered like a Brahmin. He should be considered like family. We should try to spare further suffering, because if we kill him here, even though it's right, his mother is going to grieve like I'm grieving right now. And then she says, and we're Kshatriyas. We're supposed to be respectful of Brahmanas. And there's a consequence if we're not. She says, if the kingly administrative order, being unrestricted in sense control, offends the Brahmana order and enrages them, then the fire of that rage burns up the whole body of the royal family and brings grief upon them all. She's so respectful to Brahmins that even though he's behaved like less than an animal, she's still very careful. I don't want to offend the Brahmins. Prabhupada talks about the purport. The Brahmana order of society was a spiritually advanced community, and the members of such highly elevated families were always held in great esteem by the other subordinate castes, namely the administrative kingly order, the mercantile order, and the laborers. Verse 49. King Yudhishthir fully supported the statements of the queen. So King Yudhishthir is the eldest of her sons, Arjuna's eldest brother, the one who is going to assume the throne. He supports Draupadi's statements. He agrees with her. Those statements were in accordance with the principles of Dharma and were justified, glorious, full of mercy and equity, and without duplicity. Right? So here we have like a difference of opinion, right? The purport Prabhupada says, one should not tolerate the humiliation of a member of a great family. Arjuna and his family were indebted to the family of Dronacharya because of Arjuna's learning his military science from him. If ingratitude were shown to such a benevolent family, it would not at all be justified from the moral standpoint. And also, he goes on to talk about how they didn't want to cause grief to his mother. Nakula and Sahadev, the two younger sons, younger brothers of Arjuna, also agreed. Verse 51, Bhima, however, Bhima is noted for being very hot-blooded, however, angrily disagreed with them and recommended killing this culprit who had murdered sleeping children for no purpose and for neither his nor his master's interest. Right? Bhima is like, oh, heck no. There's no way he's getting off. So, verse 52. The four-armed Lord. This is a very interesting purport here. The four-armed Lord, after hearing the words of Bhima, Draupadi, and others, saw the face of his dear friend Arjuna, and he began to speak as if smiling. Purport. Sri Krishna has two arms, and why he is designated as four-armed is explained by Sridhar Swami, ancient commentator on the Bhagavatam. Both Bhima and Draupadi held opposing views about killing Ashwatthama. Bhima wanted him to be immediately killed, whereas Draupadi wanted to save him. We can imagine Bhima ready to kill, while Draupadi is obstructing him, right? And in order to prevent both of them, the Lord discovered another two arms. Originally, the frame of the Lord Sri Krishna displays only two arms, but in his Narayana feature, he exhibits four. So he manifests his four-armed form here to hold back the disagreeing party. And it's left to Arjuna. When Arjuna was perplexed about what to do with Ashwatthama, Lord Sri Krishna, as the very dear friend of Arjuna, voluntarily took up the matter just to make a solution. And he was smiling also. How mysterious. He's smiling. 53, 54. The personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna said, a friend of a Brahmana is not to be killed. A friend means like a relative of a Brahmin, but not a real Brahmin, but even one who's related to a Brahmin, is not to be killed. But if he's an aggressor, he must be killed. All these rulings are in the scriptures, and you should act accordingly. You have to fulfill your promise to your wife, and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhima, who wants him dead, and me. Just then, Arjuna could understand the motive of the Lord by his equivocal orders. And with his sword, he severed both hair and jewel from the head of Ashwatthama. Purport. Contradictory orders of different persons are impossible to carry out. Therefore, a compromise was selected by Arjuna by his sharp intelligence. And he separated the jewel from the head of Ashwatthama. This was as good as cutting off his head, yet his life was saved for all practical purposes. So because Krishna said, Arjuna, I want you to decide, everyone is going to go with what Arjuna wants, what Arjuna decides to do. But Arjuna has to balance all these things. He has to kill him, but not kill him. So how does he do that? Verse 56. Ashwatthama had already lost his bodily luster due to infanticide. His own qualities had become lessened because he had murdered children. And now, moreover, having lost the jewel from his head, he lost even more strength. Thus he was unbound and driven out of the camp. 57. Cutting the hair from the head, depriving him of his wealth, and driving him from his residence are the prescribed punishments for the Brahmabandhu, the relative of a Brahmana. There is no injunction for killing the body. So Arjuna humiliates him. He cuts his hair off, removes his ornaments.
Was it like a crown, the jewel?
He had a jewel mounted on his forehead or something.
Okay.
He rips it off. I think there may have been, let me look it up. There was a special story behind that. I think it was actually attached to his flesh. Yeah, Ashwatthama was born with a gem on his forehead, which protected him from hunger, thirst, fatigue, and attacks by ghostly intervention. Okay. He had a Chintamani jewel on his forehead. He was blessed by that. It was a symbol of his blessing. Arjuna rips it off, cuts it off of his forehead, disfigures him, leaves him bleeding, and deprives him of his opulence, deprives him of his dignity, cuts his hair off, kicks him out of the camp, but doesn't kill him. And so he's effectively dead. He's lost all position, all respect, even he has realized the enormity of the crime he's committed. He was already silent, having sitting with the guilt of what he did. So he's effectively dead, but he's not dead. He's breathing. He's alive. So this is the compromise that Arjuna came up with. Thereafter, the sons of Pandu and Draupadi, overwhelmed with grief, performed the proper rituals for the dead bodies of their relatives. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purport of the first canto, chapter 7 of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled "The Son of Drona Punished." So this is the son of Drona, Ashvatthama. Dronacharya's son performs this heinous crime, and he tries to run away. He sends a subtle mantra weapon to kill everybody. Arjuna counterspells it, and then captures him, and he's going to kill him, but then doesn't. And he creates this. Krishna creates this difference of opinion, and Arjuna is left to navigate what to do, and he kills him and doesn't kill him. So sometimes in life you have an impossible situation, like Arjuna had, and you can't satisfy everybody. So first of all, understand you can't satisfy everybody, but try to find some higher guidance. He connected to his own sense of Krishna consciousness and found the solution. It was divinely inspired. So he's driven off. Interestingly, Ashvatthama is what's called a Chiranjiva, which means he's one of a select group of very long-lived people. Ashvatthama had a benediction that I think he couldn't just die. And I think after what he did, he was cursed. He was cursed to wander the earth for a long, long time and continue to live. And anybody who would see him would see that there was this wandering person, like a dead person, like a zombie, with like blood coming out of his forehead where the jewel had been. And he was condemned to live into this current age for thousands of years, into this current age. And after paying off his penance of guilt, he would actually be purified. In fact, I don't remember the reference right now, but it's described in the next age that soul who occupies that body is going to be the next Vyasadeva. He's going to occupy that role. He's going to actually be purified enough to perform that service. So he's got some penance to perform, but he wasn't killed, and he'll be purified by that penance. Let's pause here for comments, questions, reflections, and I think we have some time to start chapter 8, which is really cool because it's a classic, Kunti's prayers. All right, what did you hear on chapter 7? What stood out? Questions, comments, reflections?
I have a question. What do you mean he'll be the next Vyasadeva?
Vyasadeva is a post. Vyasadeva is not just a person. That Vyasadeva we heard about was a specific person, but there's always a Vyasadeva. There's always like this different demigod or that different demigod. Vyasadeva is a post. He manifests Vyasadeva is the empowered person who manifests the scripture, the Vedas.
Okay.
Empowered to do that. So it's not just one living entity doing it forever in perpetuity. If one's qualified, they want to have that post.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. More reflections. What did you hear, Nancy?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a conflicting thing here with the fact that, we talked about that you can't just be a Brahmin by birth, that in fact
Right.
you need to exhibit the properties of the Brahmin and do Brahmin-like things, whatever those are all.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that Ashvatthama is not that, and yet they keep on talking about that he is a relative of a Brahmana. He's a Brahmana in that
Yeah.
respect, but he's not. His actions don't match that, so it almost contradicts the idea that, listen, just because you're born into a Brahmin family, you're not a Brahmin.
Yeah. So it's like, are you asking how do we reconcile that?
Yeah, not necessarily. I know this is I know this stuff. You don't reconcile this stuff.
Yeah.
You sort of have to accept it on blind faith, but it's still very interesting that
Mm.
it didn't come up that, I think that that's the first thing that probably Krishna thought. He didn't act, he's not a Brahmin. What are you talking about, Arjuna? Kill him. And
Yeah.
it was more, less that that he was a Brahmin, that Draupadi was really like, hey, his mother, I don't want her to suffer the way I suffered. So it was more that aspect of the story that seemed to persuade others other than Bhima to sort of say, yeah, let's have some mercy, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
It's like
it's
they go
interesting.
low, we go high kind of thing. Mm.
Yeah. Um,
I don't know if any of that
because
made sense, but it was
yeah, it makes
just,
sense
it's
because
something that floated in my mind.
because there's a consideration of like, yeah, for example, there's always the question of like, okay, if somebody steps out of line, which to put it mildly is what Ashwatthama did. He stepped way out of line. How far can one step out of line before one can be rectified, right? So like, I don't know if it's in these purports, and I just didn't read it, or somewhere else, but Prabhupada talks about this quality of great souls. A great soul doesn't just judge somebody based on their past, right? In fact, the discussion is in other places where Prabhupada says like a third class person will judge a person based on their previous activities. A second class person will say, well, I don't care what you did in the past, what are you doing now? And a first class person will judge somebody based on their potential, what they can be elevated towards, right? Um, which takes a lot of vision and a lot of humility, a lot of tolerance, because then you can deal with just like really degraded people because well, ultimately they're actually like a brilliant gem, part and parcel of Krishna, so I can treat them as such, right? It's a very saintly realization. So these are saintly devotees. So Draupadi's perspective is based on not just her being like a soft-hearted woman. Yeah, she's kind of like not as bloodthirsty as Bhima. She's got a different quality than him. But also, everybody involved here is just a very, very elevated, saintly person. So they're seeing not just how badly he stepped out of line, but also what he could be and what his father was, and like so it's complicated. It's very complicated. But to substantiate your point about how we're not just like born into something, Narada himself says late in the seventh canto, Yasya lalakshanam proktam, pungso varnapi vyanchakam, yet anyatrapi drusheta tat tenaiva vinirdishet, which means if the symptoms of a particular varna, Brahman is a varna, order of life, if they're observed in a person, even if they were born in a different varna, they should be identified with those symptoms. He says, and it's the same thing Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Chatur Varnam Maya system guna karma vibhagashaha. I have manifested the varnashrama system, which is differentiated by guna and karma, your qualities and your activities. He doesn't say janma. It's not differentiated by birth. That's secondary. Generally, one is born with the same qualities as their parents, but the primary thing he says is what you actually do and your qualities, how you are and how you act. And so this I'm reiterating that because this is a fundamental point in our philosophy, as opposed to those elements that would try to uh, create rigidity around material classes. This is not a philosophy that espouses material rigidity. This is a philosophy that is open to people proving themselves for whatever they're worth. And there's always a certain amount of, well, for lack of a better term, upward mobility. You can actually purify yourself. Particularly in Lord Chaitanya's movement, you can purify yourself rapidly. So these kinds of verses, like what I quoted from the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna saying Chatur Varnamaya Svishtam, and the seventh canto verse, are good evidence for this philosophy. It's quite substantiated. Um, that we're not our birth, we're not our karma. We don't have to be. We can be something greater than that if we choose to, if we actually get purified, which after all is the whole point. Yeah, good stuff.
So,
Any, yeah,
yeah.
go on.
So I'm thinking I'm thinking that he was curious about the smile, right? So there was a smile that was shared at the contradiction of these two positions, which
Yeah.
seems like perhaps, the way I'm looking at it, maybe this is too materialistically looking at it, but like this could have been, could it be that Krishna set it up this way so that Arjuna had to be creative and come up with a fate worse than death, right? Because death might have been too swift and too fast
I don't
for
know.
the, like, I don't know. It just that's
Yeah.
kind of what I was thinking, was that this
We don't
was,
have any realization on what Krishna was thinking, but
yeah.
we know he was thinking. He was definitely, it was indicated quite explicitly. Like, what is the verse here? It says that Krishna is testing him. Mm,
52, where he's smiling.
no,
No, not that one. No.
1 second before that. Mm, yeah, verse 40. Although Krishna, who was examining Arjuna in religion, encouraged Arjuna to kill the son of Dronacharya, Arjuna did not like the idea of killing him. Uh, examining. Parikshita Krishnena choditaha. Evam parikshita dharmam. Thus being examined in the matter of dharma, in the matter of duty. Krishna is putting him to the test. And he's doing it so Arjuna gets glorified. Arjuna is going to pass the test. And what an incredible tightrope to walk, you know? So it's making Arjuna, he's allowing for Arjuna to be glorified. That's one motivation, certainly we can say. Yeah, here's Prabhupada talks about in the purport to 40. He says, Lord Sri Krishna encouraged Arjuna outwardly just to test Arjuna's sense of duty. It is not that Arjuna was incomplete in the sense of his duty, nor was Lord Sri Krishna unaware of Arjuna's sense of duty. But Lord Sri Krishna puts to the test many of his pure devotees just to magnify the sense of duty. The gopis were put to such tests as well. Prahlad Maharaj was also put to such a test. All pure devotees come out successful in their respective tests by the Lord. It's putting his feet to the fire to bring out the glories of Arjuna's character. But what an interesting thing to have Krishna smile at you like that. Right? Like, all right, Arjuna, you got to kill him. You got to not kill him. What are you going to do? Yeah. Okay. More reflections?
It's interesting how, I have experiences in my life where I like want to be told what to do. Like, or I want it to become very clear from Krishna or from
It's just
a mentor
easier, right?
teacher. Like, just tell me what to do so I don't have to, I continue to weigh that or balance.
Right.
And here Krishna isn't doing that.
He doesn't tell him explicitly how you should do it.
Right.
Yeah.
He's empowering him. He's kind of even tricking him, right, into, not really tricky, but he's
created the situation.
He did say were kill him, right? But he didn't actually want him to kill him.
Well, he said that, but he also later said you should kill him and also not kill him.
Right.
You have to satisfy your wife who you promised you're going to kill him. And you have to satisfy your wife who now says don't kill him. And you got to satisfy Bhima who wants to cut his head off before I can finish his sentence. Right. And you got to satisfy Draupadi, Dronacharya, and
right.
all these things. Ready, set, go. Do it.
And then he believes in him so much. And
yes.
He empowers him to make that choice.
It's got implications for us when we're sitting in that place of like, oh my God, just tell me what to do. Like, can you just please just give me a really clear sign? Mm-hmm. And sometimes Krishna will do that and sometimes he won't. Mm-hmm. Sometimes he'll let you sit with the thing and the different factors. And he has his reasons. Right? I mean, I'm not Arjuna. I'm not going to be put under the test so my great qualities can be magnified for the universe to look at. It's not the same. But I may need to be purified or whatever. But one way or another, Krishna is smiling at us, and it's not whimsical. His choice to provide or withhold a straightforward solution.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think we can continue and read in the into the 8th chapter, because the 8th chapter kind of has two parts. The greater part, the later part, is like all of Kunti's prayers. But before we get there, we can just read like the first few verses of what the Pandavas did right after they grieved, if that's okay with you all. And then we can stop and take final reflections. Chapter 8, prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit saved. Thereafter, the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. The ladies walked in front. Tradition to like offer Ganges water to take bath when a death occurs in the family. Each of the family members, Prabhupada says, pours out a pot full of the Ganges water for the departed soul and walks in a procession with the ladies in front. Having lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganges water, they bathed in the Ganges, whose water is sanctified due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. There sat the king of the Kurus, Maharaj Yudhishthir, along with his younger brothers and Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Kunti, and Draupadi, all overwhelmed with grief. Lord Krishna was also there. Citing the stringent laws of the Almighty and their reactions upon living beings, Lord Sri Krishna and the Munis, the sages, began to pacify those who were shocked and affected. The clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhishthir, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died, their duration of life having decreased, for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. So this is a bit of like a retrospective of what had led up to the Battle of Kurukshetra. A usurping, and then the offense against Draupadi and so many other things. And many have died now, right? The dust is settled, and there's been a great cost of life, and so people are like, dealing with the loss. Verse 6, Lord Sri Krishna caused 3 well-performed Ashwamedha Yagyas, horse sacrifices, to be conducted by Maharaj Yudhishthir, and thus caused his virtuous fame to be glorified in all directions. Horse sacrifice, I think Prabhupada will elaborate. This was a possible kind of sacrifice in previous ages. The horse, their life is taken, but is actually like refreshed. They come back younger, and probably talk about this purport? No, he talks about it in other places. By mantra, an old horse could actually be rejuvenated, and it was part of a fire sacrifice. It's not possible anymore, and it's forbidden in Shastra because it'll just result in killing. So because no one's qualified for this kind of yagya sacrifice anymore. The yagya for this age is the Sankirtan yagya, chanting of God's names, Krishna's names. But there was this yagya performed. Shri Krishna then prepared for his departure. He's going to go to Dwarka, where he has his queens. The battle of Kurukshetra is over. He's going to leave. He invited the sons of Pandu after having been worshipped by the Brahmins, headed by Shri Vyasadeva. The Lord also reciprocated greetings. Now, this is the whole section with Uttara and Parikshit. I don't think we can get through all this today. Well, we'll start. Okay. More drama. Even I forgot this is here. More drama. Uttara. Uttara is the mother of Parikshit. Who's Parikshit? He's gonna manifest later in the Bhagavatam. He's the great hearer of Bhagavatam. Parikshit was a king, and he is the grandson of Arjuna. He's the grandson of Arjuna, and his hearing the Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami will comprise a later part of the whole Bhagavatam. But for now, he's in the womb of his mother. He's actually in the embryo. He's not born yet. But his mother, Uttara, says in verse 9, O Lord of Lords, O Lord of the universe, you are the greatest of mystics. Please protect me, for there is no one else who can save me from the clutches of death in this world of duality. Oh, my lord, you are all powerful. A fiery iron arrow is coming towards me fast. My lord, let it burn me personally if you so desire, but please do not let it burn and abort my embryo. Please do me this favor, my lord. Prabhupada, does he talk about it here? In one of these purports, he elaborates on what it means, what she's saying. There was a final weapon. Yeah, verse 11. Having patiently heard her words, Lord Sri Krishna, who was always affectionate to his devotees, could at once understand that Ashvatthama had thrown the Brahmastra to finish the last life in the pond of a family. Ashvatthama. He had released a weapon aimed at, I think Prabhupada will talk about it here, that unlike certain, yeah, here it is, verse 12. The Brahmastras are finer than nuclear weapons. Ashvatthama discharged the Brahmastra simply to kill the Pandavas. To kill the Pandavas. Namely the 5 brothers headed by Maharaj Yudhishthir, and their only grandson, he's also a Pandava, who was lying within the womb of Uttara. Therefore, the Brahmastra, more effective and finer than the atomic weapons, was not as blind as the atomic bombs. When atomic bombs are discharged, they do not discriminate between the target and others. How many children were killed at, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, right? Mainly, the atomic bombs do harm to the innocent because there is no control. The Brahmastra is not like that. It marks out the target and proceeds accordingly without harming the innocent. So this, I don't know if it was the same weapon that he released earlier or what, but it must have been, because he has at this point been subdued. But there's still a threat to her and to the child in her womb, specifically to the child in her womb, because he's an heir to the family, and that weapon was aimed at the family. It was an attempt at whatever you call family-side, fratricide, genocide. Like you're trying to wipe out the whole family line. So, verse 13, the Almighty Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, having observed that a great danger was befalling his unalloyed devotees, who were fully surrendered souls, took up his Sudarshana disc to protect them. The Lord of Supreme Mysticism, Sri Krishna, resides within everyone's heart as the Paramatma. As such, just to protect the progeny of the Kuru dynasty, he covered the embryo of Uttara by his personal energy. We'll pause there. So he protects the unborn child. But yeah, more drama. Okay, final reflections, comments, questions, anything you heard that stood out? Krishna's testing his devotees, Pandavas, the Brahmastra, subtle energy weapons. Way back at the beginning of the chapter, we had Vyasadev's seeing the Lord and his external energy side by side, his deep desire to do good for the conditioned souls, his compassion manifesting in his decision to channel Bhagavatam to convince the living energy that their sufferings are external to them, superfluous, and can be mitigated by the process of bhakti yoga, although they don't know it yet. Okay. Go ahead. Any reflections or questions?
So 2 things.
Yes.
1, you're named after
Yeah,
an ashram,
I am.
which is really amazing. Love that. Just
I love that too. Pretty
love
cool.
learning a little bit more about that. I find the name so inspiring. Secondly, just really resonated with Draupadi and, the idea of as a mother who has experienced extreme grief and sadness and pain, and even in the face of a choice that could go one of 2 ways, whether to endorse Arjuna or not, really resonated with me as a mom, not wanting another mother to experience a pain that maybe I have experienced in my life. That's happened to me for sure, right? And even though you're going through this extremely difficult time, you would never wish that on anyone.
Right.
So that just really, really hit me.
Yeah, it's interesting because she starts off by saying like she wants him dead, you know? Well, she was grieving. I don't think she actually said that, but she was grieving, and Arjuna said, "I'm going to go kill him, and then he can be at peace." Um, Let me see if I can find. Yeah, she doesn't actually say anything. She's just crying, and then Arjuna tries to pacify her. But I think there is some more detail in the Mahabharata which talks about this incident as well, and she does express like, "I want him dead." In fact, she says, I want to take a bath standing on his head, his severed head. Then I can properly let go of my sons who have died." So she has that feeling, and then she comes to this other feeling of like, yeah, but I don't want anyone else to go through, you know, that fire of like revenge disappears, and she's just sitting with like, no one should have to deal with what I'm dealing with. Which, yeah, again, is really evidence of her quality as a human being. Really, that ability to have empathy despite extremely challenging circumstances. Um, Arjuna showed it in Kurukshetra too. Like he could have just been like, in the name of toughness or duty or righteousness, just like gone to war. But he felt so keenly the impending loss of life, even from those who were on the other side and were in many ways, they had it coming to them. He still felt like, yeah, but I don't want to do this. I don't want them to suffer. So that empathy is again there. Yeah, thanks for that. I find it interesting how the like two extremes of Bhima being like, you know what? If you won't do it, I'll do it right now. Like I will cut his head off right now. You know, how that's actually completely appropriate. And Draupadi's reaction, which is completely all like opposed to that, is also totally appropriate. They're both right. They're actually both saintly persons. Like Bhima is not just like you know, a thug. He's not just like a violent person. He knows what Krishna is saying is true. Like if this person doesn't suffer the consequences of their actions now, it's bad for them, it's bad for us, it's bad for everybody. Let's not be wimps about this. You know, let's do the right thing and kill him. He's actually thinking of the betterment of everyone's well-being, and so is Draupadi. So like there's ways in which great devotees can disagree on a matter. Um, they can be like diametrically opposed on a matter and still be like convinced that, well, no, I think that this can satisfy Krishna. No, I think this can satisfy Krishna. It's a very interesting thing. You know, it does happen.
I think it's interesting, seeing some of this. Like the one thing that stuck out to me was in that one report where they talked about what was honorable and like, you don't, if somebody's sleeping or if somebody's intoxicated or somebody's not on their chariot. And I was reminded of the one of the Leelas in the Krishna book where, I forget who it was, but they were like, it was either Krishna or Baladev, but like, I think it was Krishna, and like he was in fast pursuit of this guy, and then the guy ditched his chariot, and so Krishna, because that guy ditched his chariot, Krishna ditched his
Yeah.
chariot to be fair and to like go by honor and the right way to do things. And so I think it's I've been struggling with like listening to this and reading through this and being like, I don't like that Krishna tested him. Like, it's like Krishna's like, do this. And it's like, well, do I disobey God or do like I go with my gut? But also I think, Krishna was demonstrating that there are these rules in place or these respects that we should be showing each other. And
Yeah.
how do we move through the world and do what's just, but also be respectful. And I just really appreciate like that, maybe it's not necessarily Krishna trying to trick us, but it's, how do we relate back to what we are hearing from God and like what we know is just and honorable.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because like the more um the more advanced somebody is, the more they see contradictions and subtleties and nuance and the like rules, or not even rules, but like the influence of etiquette, of morality, of inner guidance, of external guidance, of society, of age, of gender, of all the different ways that we can like all the life gets more complicated. If you're a simple person and you're like not a very high quality, like you're not a thoughtful person, life is very simple. You just do whatever you feel like doing, and it's like in your mind it's fine, right? But the more refined somebody is, the more they're like, well, wait a minute, like I gotta balance this. But what about that? Like the more you know, you don't know. So that was interesting to me, and I kind of heard that in what you were saying right now. Um, and there was also something else. What was the first thing you said?
Well, also how like it's just so beautiful how Krishna leads by example, right? And how like, even here, which is well before like what we see, coming down the pike, like Krishna over and over again uses this etiquette, like whether he's washing the feet of the elders or he is
Right,
teaching
right.
a chariot to be like
Oh yeah, yeah.
taking
Or
advantage
if
or
he's fighting an unarmed enemy, he'll drop
yeah.
his weapon.
So it's just such an interesting juxtaposition to have that here, but then also, what is the right thing to do? Because this dude was like bad. He like really bad, did bad things. So like, what do we do here? And it's just,
Yeah,
yeah, it makes my head hurt a little bit, which I think is good. It's like thinking about, like for me, it's like thinking about space. It's like, like which one's the right one and which one's not the right one, and how are we supposed to discern? And like, what's, kind of bouncing off of what Kishori said so eloquently. It's like, we want him just to tell us, but then he tells us, but then we got to figure out, is that really what we should do or not? Like it's tough.
yeah. You gotta try and be Krishna conscious. It's 8:03. I hate to, but I think we have to end here. So for this this week, we read chapter 7 and the first dozen verses of chapter 8. And please reflect back whatever you heard, what stuck out. Beautiful pastimes here. We've been churning the nectar really nicely in the WhatsApp thread. Let's keep it going. And thank you so much to the in-person crew, the online crew, the YouTube crew, the Bhagavatam, Narada Muni, even Ashvatthama, all of you. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Vancha kalpatarupyascha kripa sindhubhye vacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. May you all be inspired by the ashram called Shamyapras, where Vyasadeva lives, which is a place from which he propagated the knowledge of what's good for everybody, for the betterment of everyone. May we all be inspired by such broad-minded thinking, and live always in spiritual ashramas, no matter what order of life we're in. Hare Krishna.